The elevator chimed at 10:58 p.m., and Madison Clark, 32, CEO of Clark Innovations, caught the janitor in the reflection of the glass. Daniel Hayes, 35, single dad with a gray hoodie and calloused hands, slipped a fat paper envelope into his pocket and moved fast for the exit, head down like a man carrying a secret. Curiosity hit her like a flare. She didn't call security. She followed, heels muted, breath tight, heart punching her ribs, out of the tower and into a rain-wet street where neon bled into puddles and the city smelled like metal and midnight. Whatever he was hiding, he wasn't hiding it from fear. It looked like purpose. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. The revolving doors sighed shut behind her. Daniel was already a half-block ahead, shoulders squared against the wind, walking with that steady, blue-collar cadence. No slouching, no slinking. Madison stayed back, keeping to the wash of shadow between street lamps. A delivery truck rumbled by. He didn't look over his shoulder once. He passed the bus stop, the subway entrance, and the late-night taco cart. He didn't stop for food, for coffee, for anything. When he turned down Maple and 9th, he slipped into a faded diner whose sign buzzed from a dying ballast. Madison hesitated, then pushed inside after him, staying invisible in the reflection of a napkin dispenser. Daniel took the back booth, under a crooked photo of a 1980s softball team. He didn't open a menu, he didn't order. He set the envelope on the formica, flattened it with his palm, and took out its contents. Cash, not a lot, but thick enough to matter. He unfolded a wrinkled list, edges soft from a pocket's friction. A waitress with a tired ponytail drifted by, and he offered a small smile. "Water, please," he said. "I'm good, Denise." First name familiarity, like he'd been here before. He began dividing the cash into smaller stacks with surgical neatness. Madison's brain, trained on burn rates and P&Ls, instantly labeled the piles. Rent, groceries, utilities, diapers? No, his daughter was 9. She remembered a memo noting a school pickup once. Then she saw him write in block letters on 4 cheap white envelopes. Rent, gas, electric, groceries, Emma, school. He paused, jaw flexing, as if debating with a voice only he could hear. Then he peeled off the largest portion, nearly half, and slid it into an unmarked 5th envelope. No label. He tapped it once, as if sealing a promise, and tucked everything away. He left a 5 on the table for water. Outside again, Madison caught the door with her palm, stepping into cold air that pinched her lungs. Daniel was already crossing toward a strip of tired storefronts. A sign ahead read, "Harbor Community Center" in chipped navy paint. The place looked like it survived on ribbons and duct tape. Slouching gutters, a bulletin board layered with bake sale flyers and grief group schedules. Daniel pushed inside. A bell tinkled. Madison eased to the window, peering through condensation. Inside, under fluorescent hum, a woman with silver hair and a cardigan the color of oatmeal stood behind a reception desk stacked with clipboards. Daniel leaned in, said something that made her mouth soften. Then he slid the unmarked envelope across the counter. The woman shook her head, flustered. Madison could read lips when people fought a gift. Too much. Daniel answered gently, palms up. The woman's eyes glassed. She tried to hand it back. He didn't take it. A boy drifted into view, a skinny kid with a buzz cut and a backpack that had seen too many winters. Daniel crouched, smiling up at him, and the kid's posture changed from wary to weightless. The silver-haired woman relented, tucking the envelope beneath the desk like a secret you keep because love told you to. Madison's throat tightened against a feeling she didn't have a name for. When Daniel turned and came back out, he paused beneath the community center's flickering porch light to answer his phone. "Hey, Peanut," he said, voice warmer than she'd ever heard in their sterile halls. "Yeah, I'll be home before lights out. Leftovers? You better not have eaten my slice of pizza. What do you mean, maybe?" He laughed, low and soft. "Okay, scientist. Show me your volcano when I get in." He ended the call and started walking again. And Madison, who had closed hostile mergers at dawn and fired vice presidents at lunch without her pulse flicking, felt her hands tremble. At the corner, he stopped to help a woman struggling with a stroller trapped in a sewer grate. No theatrics. He didn't know anyone was watching. He set down his backpack, lifted the front wheels free, checked the baby's blanket with 2 fingers, like it was instinct, then moved on before the mother could say more than, "Thank you." The kind you don't see because they happen without an audience. Madison followed him 3 blocks more until he climbed a paint-peeled stair to a 2-story walk-up. The porch light was out. He used his phone as a flashlight to find the lock. Through the 2nd-floor window, a lamp snapped on. A girl's silhouette, a wild ponytail, a t-shirt with too many glitter stars, darted across the glass. The door opened and Emma launched into him. He caught her with a quiet oof, like he'd been bracing for joy, not impact. The door closed. The street fell back to rain and neon and the lonely buzz of an empty bus. Madison stood on the sidewalk longer than made sense, the cold finally finding the space between her ribs. A memory rose uninvited. Her father's voice, steel and sermon, telling her that money respected only discipline, not sentiment. That charity was for press releases, not practice. He'd built an empire of rules around her heart and called it wisdom. And yet, she'd just watched a man with nothing build something far stronger with a handful of wrinkled bills. Back in her car, heat blasting, she stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror. A woman who signed 7-figure checks without blinking suddenly couldn't swallow around the lump in her throat. She drove home on autopilot. Her penthouse felt indecently large, the fridge jangling with sparkling waters, the closet where shoes lined up like obedient soldiers. She placed her phone face down on the counter, but it lit anyway. Emails piling like snow. She ignored them and crossed to the window. From here, the city was a board game, and she was the player who'd hoarded all the good pieces. Her mind returned to the community center, the buzz of its lights, the boys' startled hope. She remembered the envelope. No label, no glory, just generosity like gravity. Silent, irresistible. The next morning, Madison arrived early, earlier than the bad coffee. The building smelled like lemon cleaner and ambition. Through the glass wall of the 18th floor conference room, she spotted him, alone, pushing the floor polisher in smooth figure eights. The machine whirred like a patient animal. Daniel's movements were precise, almost meditative. She watched his reflection drift across the window's dawn-lit cityscape, a man whose quiet competence made noise in her head. She stepped inside. "Good morning, Mr. Hayes?" He straightened, surprised. "Ms. Clark, morning." "You can call me Madison," she said. It came out more earnest than planned. He nodded, amused. "Okay, Madison." She held his gaze and felt ridiculously like she was the one being evaluated. "I wanted to—" "Thank you," she said, careful, testing how close she could get to the line without admitting she'd followed him. "The conference floors look like glass." He shrugged. "Just trying to keep us all from slipping." He cut the polisher and the silence filled with the building's bones. Vent breath, elevator cables, a far-off printer waking. She looked at his hands. the faint ridges of scars old work leaves. You always this thorough? Only with things that matter. He said it with a small smile that told her he hadn't meant to sound philosophical. What matters? She asked, too quickly. He blinked, as if the question were rarely asked, and never by a CEO at 6:20 a.m. My kid, he said after a beat. People who fall through cracks, floors, he added, and the joke broke the tension. Madison's laugh surprised them both. Right, floors. She wanted to say, I saw you last night. I saw you give away half your pay. I saw you rescue a stroller like you were late for a meeting with decency. Instead, she said, do you ever take time for yourself? Daniel's eyes softened with humor. Between soccer practice and volcano projects, I'm good. He tilted his head. You okay? Her mouth opened and something personal nearly fell out. She shut it. I'm fine, just early day. He nodded, as if he didn't believe her, but respected the boundary. I'll get out of your way. Stay, she said, too fast again. She swallowed, recalibrated. Actually, could you leave the conference room for 10 minutes and then come back? I dropped something I need to find, and I don't want the machine noise. It was clumsy. He saw through it, not the lie itself, but the fact that there was one. He glanced at the polished floor, then at her. Sure, he said simply. 10 minutes. He rolled the polisher to the hall and left her alone with a view of the city and the echo of her own heartbeat. She pulled out her phone and typed a note to herself. Harbor Community Center. Funding. Anonymous grant. Ask legal. Quickest channel. 0 PR. Her thumb hovered over send. This wasn't how her company gave press releases, staged photos, quotes about corporate citizenship. This would be quiet, unlabeled, like an envelope across a counter. She hit save instead, then looked toward the door where Daniel would reappear, faithful as sunrise. A new thought formed, wild, brash, and dangerous in the way truth is. What if he wasn't just a man to admire from a distance? What if he was a mirror? The handle turned. Daniel stepped back in, rolling the machine, one eyebrow lifted. Find what you were looking for? Not yet, Madison said, and surprised herself with the honesty that followed. But I think I know where to start. His smile said he didn't understand, and also that he didn't need to. Sometimes faith goes first and comprehension follows. Behind them, the skyline brightened. The kind of thin gold that makes glass look like it learned to breathe. Madison squared her shoulders. There were budgets to rewrite. There were rules to break gently. There was a community center's buzzing light she could already hear in her head. And there was a man who gave without label. She wasn't done following him. By noon, the executive floor hummed the way a hive hums, curated urgency. A strategy deck waited in her inbox. A board prep packet glared from her desk. Madison shoved them aside and opened a blank email to legal. Subject: Silent gift. Anonymous grant to Harbor Community Center. $250,000. Earmark: youth meals, tutoring, trauma counseling, HVAC replacement. No press, no logos. Route through donor advised. Move quietly. She hovered, hearing her father's voice. Charity is leverage, not lifeblood. She hit send anyway, her chest loosened like a knot easing. An alert pinged. Facilities budget review in 15 minutes. She almost skipped it, until she saw a footnote. Vendor renewal. Radex maintenance. 3-year extension. Radex. The discount contractor that squeezed margins by crushing people. A sour taste hit her tongue. In the glass-walled conference room, the CFO, Victor Lang, slick hair, slicker, smile, clicked to a slide full of percentages. Radex undercut every competitor by 9%, he said. Same scope, lower price. We lock early, we save 7 figures over term. Recommend approval. Define same, Madison said. Victor blinked. Same service levels. Nightly janitorial, quarterly deep cleans, on-call emergencies. And wages? She asked. He hesitated. Radex pays within legal minimums, which is a nice way of saying the humans who keep this place habitable are a line item to be starved. Her tone sharpened. Who negotiated this? Procurement, he said smoothly. We have a fiduciary duty, Madison. We have a human duty, she replied, surprising even herself with the heat in it. Table it. Victor's smile thinned. With respect, the board wants savings. The board wants results, she said. We won't get them by hollowing out the people who literally hold the building together. Bring me vendors who pay a living wage, real benefits, sick days, tuition assistance. Schedule a rebid. He stared a beat too long. Understood. Outside, she exhaled, fingers buzzing. Her assistant, Nora, poked her head in. Everything good? Better than good, Madison said. Have HR pull me the pay bands for all hourly workers, and ask them why our custodial team doesn't have emergency sick leave. Nora's eyebrows popped. On it. By late afternoon, legal replied. The grant would clear within 24 hours. Quiet, clean. Madison allowed herself a small, private smile. Then she grabbed her blazer and took the stairs down, not the elevator, needing the thump of effort to ground her. On 12, she found Daniel swapping out trash liners. He looked up, surprised. Back again, Madison? You keep showing up, she said lightly. So do I. He smirked. Occupational hazard. They walked side by side to the service elevator, a tight box that smelled like citrus and steel. For a few floors, they stood in a comfortable hush. Then Daniel said, My daughter made a volcano last night. Food coloring everywhere. Kitchen looked like a crime scene. Madison laughed. Worth it. He considered. When the foam hit the pan, she screamed. And then she made me promise we'd do it again, but bigger and louder. So, yeah. The doors opened on 4. He rolled his card out. She followed, even though her office was 20 floors up. She shouldn't have. She did anyway. Daniel, she said, and his name felt strange and right in the same breath. Can I ask you something? Personal? You just did, he said, amused. You get one more. Last night at the community center. She saw his posture shift. Not defensive exactly, but guarded. I saw you give away a lot of your paycheck. He let the cart's handle go. It thunked softly. You followed me. Yes, she said plainly. I did. He studied her, weighing. Then he sighed, not angry, just tired. They feed kids after school. They keep the heat on in winter. They helped me when Emma was 6 and had pneumonia, and I missed a week of work. They got us through when my wife... He stopped, jaw tightening. When things fell apart, I owe them more than money. You owe no one your life, she murmured. Maybe not, he said. But I'm still here because someone opened a door. Feels wrong to walk through and not hold it for the next person. Silence feathered the air. Madison swallowed. If someone wanted to help the center. They'd talk to Linda, he said, then cocked his head. But someone sounds like you. I'm just asking hypotheticals. Right, he said, half grin. Hypothetically, Linda will try to talk you down and tell you they need just a little. She's lying. They need a lot. Roof leaks, printer died. The kids pretend they like cold soup. Something hot and helpless pressed at Madison's sternum. Thank you, she said. For the honesty. He nodded once, gentle. For what it's worth, you don't have to fix the whole world, Madison. Pick your block. Sweep it clean. She filed the line in her bones. The next evening, a storm crawled in from the river, wind scraping down alleys. Madison stayed late. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to be there when the building slept. On 16, the fire alarm hiccuped, then screamed. Red strobes spat light. In operations, a pipe behind a wall joint had burst, spraying the server closet like a busted hydrant. "Kill power, now!" someone yelled. By the time Madison reached the hall, Daniel was already there, soaked to the shoulder, shoving rubber wedges under the door to redirect water flow and barking calm orders at two stunned interns. "Towels. Anything absorbent. You, pull breakers 3 and 4. No, not that one. This one." His voice was steady, trained by 1,000 small crises. A maintenance tech fumbled with the panel. "I don't—" Daniel moved past him, flipped the right switches, and the lights in the room went dark obediently. He grabbed an emergency tarp from his cart and clipped it along the top frame to create a chute, angling the torrent into a rolling bin. Improvised engineering. Efficient. Elegant. Madison stood useless for half a beat, then snapped out of it. "I'll get facilities," she said, sprinting for the phone. By the time she returned, the worst was contained. Daniel, drenched and breathing hard, wiped his forearms with a shop rag. "You just kept us from cooking $1 million of servers," she said. 10 million, he corrected, lips twitching. "But who's counting?" She blinked. "How did you—" "Years ago, I cleaned a data center at night. You learn fast when a leak turns your paycheck into steam." The operations manager clapped him on the shoulder. "You saved us, Hayes." Daniel shrugged. "I keep us from slipping," he said, echoing his own joke from that morning, and the room actually laughed. Relief, gratitude, the alchemy of a building deciding to be a team for once. When the alarms died and the tarp stopped drumming, Madison pulled Daniel aside. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my office." He frowned. "Am I in trouble?" The corner of her mouth lifted. "That depends on whether you hate surprises." His eyes narrowed, pretending suspicion, but she saw the flicker of worry anyway. Men like Daniel had met too many surprises that came in the shape of pink slips. At 9 a.m., he stepped into a room that usually smelled like expensive leather and victory. Today it smelled like coffee and rain-dried cotton from his jacket. Madison gestured to 2 chairs at a small round table, not the imposing desk. He sat. The tension in his shoulders didn't. "First," she said, sliding a folder across to him, "thank you for last night. You protected critical infrastructure with improvisation and leadership. That's not janitorial work, that's facilities mastery." He blinked slowly. "I was just doing what needed doing," she finished. "Exactly." He looked at the folder, but didn't open it. "What is this?" "A promotion," she said. "Night facilities supervisor, pay bump, real benefits, health that actually helps, 5 paid sick days, and a stipend for continuing education. If you want the title without the hours, we can adjust. But I'd be lucky to have you lead." Daniel didn't answer right away. His face cycled through disbelief, calculation, and something like grief for how many times life had offered less. There's a guy who's been here longer," he said. "Luis. Good man. He trains new hires. I'm not stepping over him." Madison nodded, warmed by the reflex. "We'll promote 2. Day and night. You'll both get the raise." He swallowed. "And the team?" "New vendor," she said. "No more Radex. We're rebidding with wage floors and benefits. No more shaving minutes off shifts to hit efficiency. His laugh was startled, disbelieving. What changed? I did, she said simply. He considered her for a long moment, as if testing whether the words had scaffolding or were just air. Then he opened the folder. Numbers. Real ones. He exhaled with a shaky sound he probably didn't intend to make. Madison. He cleared his throat. This helps, not just me. I know, she said. That's the point. He closed the folder carefully, like it might spook. I'll do it. But I'm going to ask for one more thing. She arched an eyebrow. Name it. A small gear room on 6 is empty, he said. Give me permission to turn it into a tool library for the crew. Real equipment, label makers, training board. We'll maintain our own kits, teach new hires how to fix the little stuff before it becomes big stuff. That saves you money, and it gives guys pride. She felt a grin she couldn't suppress. Deal. Send me a list. He stood, then paused, uncertain. I don't know what's happening here, he admitted. But thank you. It's mutual, she said. One more thing. You'll pretend you don't know anything about an anonymous donor who cares about the Harbor Community Center. His smile grew, tipping toward mischief. Anonymous, huh? Sounds like they have good instincts. Stubborn ones, she said. And a bad relationship with sleep. He started for the door, then turned back. There's a fundraiser this Saturday, he said. For the center, nothing fancy. Chili cook-off, paper hearts on a string. If Emma and I save you a seat, would you come? The question landed soft and heavy. Madison had not sat at anything that wasn't plated in years. She pictured fluorescent lights, scuffed floors, laughter that wasn't networking, a long table lined with slow cookers and hope. Yes, she said, surprising herself with how quickly it came. I'll be there. He nodded once, as if some part of him had been waiting to be told people like her show up for things like that. When the door closed, Madison's phone buzzed with a message from legal. Grant transferred. Receipt attached. Below it, a note from Nora. CFO pushing back on vendor switch. Wants to review optics. Of course he did. Madison straightened, a quiet resolve tightening her spine. If Victor wanted a fight about optics, she'd give him one. With facts, with faces, with the kind of numbers even cold hearts feared. Turnover rates, outage downtimes, lawsuit risks. Her screen lit again. A photo from an unknown number came through. Emma, gap-toothed and gleaming, dipping a plastic dinosaur into a red foam volcano. A second later, a text. This is Daniel. Hope it's okay. Emma insisted on thanking the lady boss for not being fancy mean. Her words. Madison laughed, startled, delighted. She typed back, tell the scientist I'm honored, and Saturday, don't let me chicken out. 3 dots. Then, you'll be fine. We'll save you a bowl of the good chili. She put her phone down and stared out at a city that suddenly looked less like a game board and more like a neighborhood. She thought of her father again, of the empire built on fear of scarcity. She thought of an envelope with no label. Saturday would come. The chili would steam. The paper hearts would flutter when the door opened. And somewhere in that room, a CFO would decide whether to keep playing games or learn what it feels like when the people you've ignored start to speak. Madison smiled, the fighting kind. Saturday came bright and cold, sunlight cutting through the brittle air. Madison drove herself. No chauffeur, no security detail, just a coffee cup balanced between the seats and nerves buzzing under her skin. She hadn't been in a community hall since she was a teenager, and back then it was for scholarship dinners her father attended only to hand out checks, never to share a meal. The GPS led her to a low brick building with a mural of children holding paper hearts. Cars lined the block, beat-up sedans, rust-bitten trucks, a couple of bikes chained to a stop sign. She parked at the corner, watching families spill through the double doors, laughter fogging the air. For a moment, she almost turned back. The idea of walking in alone, not as the Madison Clark, but just a woman, felt strangely terrifying. Then she spotted Daniel near the entrance, sleeves rolled up, stirring a massive pot with a wooden ladle while Emma stood on a crate beside him, face dusted with flour. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. That simple smile disarmed her more than any boardroom ever could. "Hey, Madison," he called, waving her over. "You found the place." She stepped into the hall, and warmth hit her, both the air and the people. Tables lined with crockpots and handwritten signs filled the room. Laughter echoed off the walls. The air smelled of spices, sugar, and something that felt like home. Emma spotted her and gasped. "Daddy, she came." Daniel grinned. "Told you she would." Madison bent down, smiling at the little girl. "I wouldn't miss it, scientist. How's the volcano project?" Emma's face lit up. It exploded all the way to the ceiling. "She means the kitchen ceiling," Daniel muttered. "Still pink." Madison laughed, shaking her head. A creative genius, clearly. Linda, the silver-haired woman from that night, appeared, carrying a clipboard and a tired but radiant grin. "You must be Madison," she said warmly. "Daniel told me all about you. Thank you for coming." Madison smiled. "I should be thanking you for what you do here." Linda chuckled softly. "We just hold things together with glue and prayer." Then, lowering her voice, she added, "And sometimes kindness from strangers who don't want their names mentioned." Her eyes twinkled. "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" Madison's cheeks warmed. "I might have heard rumors." Linda patted her arm. "Well, whoever it was, they made a lot of kids sleep easier this week." Across the room, a young boy in a red hoodie stumbled, nearly spilling a tray of paper cups. Daniel was there before Madison could move, steadying the tray, kneeling to the boy's level, saying something that made the kid laugh through his embarrassment. The whole scene hit her in the gut. How natural it was for him to notice, to help, to care without fanfare. "See that?" Linda whispered. "That man's the reason this place runs. He doesn't just clean floors. He keeps souls from slipping." Madison swallowed hard. An hour later, Daniel waved her over to taste his chili entry. "Careful," he said, ladling her salmi bowl. Emma calls it Dad's Inferno, but she may have exaggerated. Emma chimed in proudly. "He cried when he tested it." "I sneezed," Daniel corrected, pretending outrage. Madison tasted it and immediately coughed. "You sneezed because it's lava," she gasped, eyes watering. Daniel laughed until his shoulders shook. "Guess I overshot the spice curve." "Guess?" she said between coughs. "You weaponized it." The room filled with music, a local guitarist strumming old country songs, kids chasing each other between tables. Madison found herself seated with a group of parents she didn't know, laughing at stories about toddlers painting walls and pets eating homework. For once, nobody looked at her title. Nobody cared what she owned. They just saw her. Later, when Emma tugged her hand and said, "Come dance," she hesitated only a moment before letting herself be pulled onto the floor. They spun between tables, Emma giggling, Daniel watching from near the stage. His eyes met hers briefly, steady, unspoken warmth between them. Not romantic, not yet. Something deeper, more honest, respect, understanding. As the evening wound down, Daniel joined her outside while volunteers cleaned up inside. The air had softened. The street smelled like rain waiting to happen. Not bad for a Saturday, he said, stuffing his hands into his jacket pockets. Not bad at all, she agreed. You were right. Best chili I've ever had. He chuckled. You lie beautifully, Miss Clark. Madison, she corrected gently. You've earned that. He smiled at her tone. All right, Madison. So, tell me, what made you really come tonight? She looked at him for a long moment before answering. Because I realized I've spent years building things that don't matter half as much as this place does. And because someone reminded me that doing the right thing doesn't need applause. He studied her face, the sincerity in her words. You changed more than you think, he said. Not just for the center, for people here, for me. Good, she said softly. Then it was worth it. They walked toward her car, quiet between them, but comfortable. At the corner, Emma ran up holding something behind her back. Miss Madison. Madison crouched, smiling. Yes, scientist. Emma handed her a folded piece of paper. It's for you. Madison unfolded it carefully. Inside was a drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands beneath a rainbow. One had messy hair labeled Dad, one wore a blue dress labeled Me, and one, drawn taller with long brown hair, said Ms. Madison. For a second, Madison couldn't speak. Her throat locked around the emotion rising fast. It's beautiful, she managed. I'll frame it. Emma grinned. Daddy says good people help other people. I think you're good people. The simplicity in that broke something open inside Madison, something old and armored. She looked at Daniel, who watched quietly, eyes glinting in the amber streetlight. Your daughter's got a better moral compass than most of the board, she whispered. She got it from her mom, Daniel said softly. At least that's what I like to believe. A beat of silence hung between them. Madison reached out, lightly squeezing his arm. Then she'd be proud of both of you. He smiled faintly. Maybe. They said their goodnights, but as Madison drove home, her reflection in the windshield wasn't the same woman who'd followed him out of the building days ago. That woman had been curious, maybe even skeptical. The one driving home now felt grounded, like she'd finally remembered what her father's money could never buy. Purpose. The next Monday, Clark Innovations announced a new internal initiative. Hearts in Motion, a company-wide volunteer program with paid hours dedicated to community work. No PR fanfare, no photo ops, just people, helping people. When Daniel came across the email while cleaning the lobby later that week, he smiled, then kept on mopping. He didn't need credit. He didn't need thanks. He just needed the world to keep moving a little kinder than it did yesterday. That evening, as Madison left the office, she found a small brown envelope taped to her door. Inside was a single dollar bill and a handwritten note. Consider this my first donation to Hearts in Motion. Don't spend it all in one place. D.H. She laughed out loud, shaking her head, slipping the dollar into her wallet next to her father's old business card, a relic of a man who measured worth in profit. Tonight, she knew better. Because the janitor she once followed into the dark had shown her something most billionaires never learn. You don't have to own the world to change it. You just have to give. Quietly, and without a label.